Chapter 41 Want both benefits and peace. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Inside the tent, Roland was practically drooling, sizing up Xiao Xun'er like he was a winning lottery ticket. This wasn't just genius anymore, she'd landed a future superstar. A 12-year-old grandmaster. Canaan Academy had never seen anything like it. Other so-called geniuses might become strong someday, but Xiao Xun'er. He would be a powerhouse, no question. With that kind of insane, off-the-charts talent, the sky was the limit for him. Wow, kid. Xiao Xun'er, you're full of surprises. Roland even switched to calling him by his given name. Xiao Xun'er was clearly operating on her level, so kid felt a little condescending. Xiao Xun'er just smiled, not saying anything. Roland got the message and turned to her students. You guys handle the new student registration. Keep things organized and don't cause any trouble. Then, turning back to Xiao Xun'er, she said, Let's go, Xiao Xun'er. We need to talk. Xiao Xun'er nodded to Xiao Xun'er and little fairy doctor, letting them know not to worry. With everyone staring daggers of jealousy, Xiao Xun'er hurried after Roland, falling in step just behind her. As soon as they were gone, the tent practically exploded. Everyone was buzzing, trying to figure out the same thing. Just how powerful was Xiao Xun'er? Xiao Xun'er and little fairy doctor, left behind in the tent, suddenly became the center of attention. Xiao Yu's girlfriends swarmed them, begging for details about Xiao Xun'er's strength, but both girls were tight-lipped, brushing off their pleas with smiles. Finally, Xiao Yu charged in, rescuing them from the mob and dragging them to a corner. Xun'er, seriously, what's the deal with Xiao Xun'er? How'd he get Roland so worked up? Xiao Xun'er just grinned, then shook her head when she saw Xiao Yu's hopeful look. Cousin Xiao Yu, why don't you ask brother Xiao Xun'er yourself? Wouldn't it be more special coming from him? Xiao Yu rolled her eyes, knowing she wouldn't get anything out of her, and if she asked Xiao Xun'er directly, she'd probably just get teased again. The commotion in the tent was even freaking out the new students. Was this really the registration area? But after hearing what had happened, they were just as stunned, especially Xiao Xun'er, who was suddenly under a microscope. With the mysterious Xiao Xun'er gone, she was the next best thing. After all, she was hanging out with a potential S-class genius. But she was surrounded by girls, and no one dared to get close. Meanwhile, Xiao Xun'er followed Roland to a secluded spot. Roland crossed her arms, still giving Xiao Xun'er the once-over. How did this kid train? A 12-year-old grandmaster. It made her entire career feel like a joke. Teacher Roland, can you please stop staring? I followed you out here, not to be put on display like a freak. Just imagine if everyone knew. They'd really think you were a freak. Roland said dramatically. Seriously, a 12-year-old grandmaster? I still can't wrap my head around it. That's why I don't go around showing off. Xiao Xun'er shrugged. Please don't tell anyone about my true strength. I can promise not to tell anyone who doesn't need to know, but I have to tell the dean. Roland paused, then explained, he's the one who decides how to train the most talented student in Canaan college history. Xiao Xun'er nodded, understanding. Of course. I just don't want the extra attention. But I'm definitely interested in the Academy's training program. I see right through you. You want the VIP treatment, but without all the drama. Roland had his number. Otherwise, why wouldn't he just lie about his strength and say he was a 3-star fighter? He revealed his true power to her to get the Academy's full attention. They chatted for a while longer, and their relationship definitely warmed up. Roland even went back to calling him kid again, but this time, her eyes were full of fondness. Xiao Xun'er was starting to feel awkward. Teacher Roland, before we go, I have one more favor to ask. Oh. Name it, kid, Roland said cheerfully. Landing him was a major win for her career. This was going to be her ticket to becoming a hujia instructor. Seeing her so generous, Xiao Xun'er jumped right in. I was hoping Teacher Roland. Whoa. Hey, aren't you a little young to be hitting on me? Roland interrupted him, wide-eyed and clutching her chest in mock horror. Xiao Xun'er rolled his eyes. Teacher Roland, can you let me finish? Just kidding. Go on. Roland giggled, enjoying teasing this talented and amusing student. I'd like you to stay at the Xiao family's place during the enrollment period. I want to try and get them a little boost before I leave. Xiao Zhe's meaning was clear, and Ruolin understood immediately. As a powerful, independent institution, Canaan College usually didn't get involved with local forces. Besides, her role as an admissions instructor already made her a target for people trying to curry favor. Countless families wanted to get their kids into Canaan College with her help. Ruolin glanced at Xiao Zhe and nodded without hesitating. Staying at the Xiao family's house for a week would just send a message to everyone else. She wasn't going to actually help other forces or abuse her power for personal gain. Okay, but I won't be meeting with anyone. I'm just staying at the student's house. Got it. Xiao Zhe nodded. That was enough. Just the fact that Ruolin was staying with the Xiao family would be enough to make every power player in Wutan City start sucking up to them. In that case, I'll take my leave and get things ready for your arrival, Teacher Ruolin. Xiao Zhe bowed politely and backed away. Ruolin watched him go with a smile. Not only was he unbelievably talented, but he was also a good kid. Xiao Zhe returned to the tent and left with Xiao Xun'er and little fairy doctor. He also told Xiao Yu to remember to bring Ruolin back to the Xiao family. Hearing the news, the family elders scrambled to prepare a place for her to stay. They were determined to make her feel right at home. Chapter 42 7 Days. 7 days. Do you know how I spent these 7 days? You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, Xiao Zhan, along with the senior members of the Xiao family, stood outside the gate, eagerly awaiting the arrival of the person Xiao Zhe had mentioned. The Xiao family elders behind him were still finding it hard to believe. The tutor from Canaan College, typically aloof, actually wanted to stay with the Xiao family. Had the news not come directly from Xiao Zhe, they wouldn't have believed it, but Xiao Zhe now held considerable sway within the family, since showing his 9-star fighter strength and outlining a bright future for the Xiao children during the conflict with the elder. Xiao Zhan had secured his position as clan leader. This had significantly weakened the influence of the other elders. Having witnessed Xiao Zhe's breakthroughs twice, Xiao Zhan was now determined to pass the leadership to him. He was secretly building support for Xiao Zhe, who likely didn't realize his influence already surpassed that of the elders. Just as everyone anticipated, Xiao Yu arrived with tutor Ruolin and a large group of female classmates. Xiao Zhan, relieved, greeted them with a happy smile. You must be tutor Ruolin. I'm Xiao Zhan, head of the Xiao family. Ruolin smiled gently. It's a pleasure to meet you, Chief Xiao. Young Master Ling's talent is truly remarkable. I hope bringing so many students won't inconvenience the Xiao family, she added politely. Not at all. It's an honor to host talented students and a respected tutor from Canaan. It's a blessing for the Xiao family. Xiao Zhan warmly welcomed them into the guest rooms, which he had prepared after Xiao Zhe's announcement. Ruolin was pleased by the considerate hospitality. The next morning, Xiao Zhe stood atop a mountain, noticing carriages arriving at the Xiao family gate, each bearing the emblem of a prominent force in Wutan City. This exchange of favors should fuel the Xiao family's growth for a while, he mused. Now, it's off to Canaan Academy. Improving my strength is the priority. With his short-term goals set, Xiao Zhe became even more reclusive, almost as if he had already left for Canaan College. Unfortunately, Canaan College required a 7-day stay in Wutan City until after the enrollment ceremony. 7 days passed quickly. Xiao Zhe sat cross-legged on a stone platform, his body radiating an aqua-blue light, vast like the ocean. 3-star fighting master. Not bad progress. That he felt the crystals in his Doji cyclone had grown larger, and nodded in satisfaction. Gaining 2 stars in 7 days in the great fighter realm was difficult without pills. Xiao Zhe had been leveraging the little medical fairy's poisonous power through the disaster poison body to enhance his fighting spirit. Brother Xiao Zhe, are you ready? Today's the day to leave. Xiao Xun'er, with the little medical fairy, approached, sensing Xiao Zhe's still lingering energy. She couldn't help but marvel at his natural talent and the rapid growth facilitated by the disaster poison body. 1 day of his training was worth years for others. I'm ready. I have nothing to take from the Xiao family. I said my goodbyes already, so showing up now would feel a bit forced, Xiao Zhe replied, stretching and fully concealing his aura. Let's go and meet up with Tutor Wolin. The three went to the gate, where Xiao Yu was waiting. Seeing them, she hurried over, saying, "Finally. I haven't seen you three in days. I couldn't find you anywhere." "Huh, I was engrossed in training." "No offense, cousin Xiao Yu." "Lucky you, hiding away, while Tutor Wolin roped me into registering new students for 3 days." Ugh. As the group of four headed to the square, Xiao Yu vented her frustrations. Xiao Zhe smiled, listening silently. As they approached the square, Xiao Yu wisely fell silent. Xiao Xun'er chuckled. "I thought you were going to complain all the way to the square." Xiao Yu rolled her eyes. "Tutor Wolin may be gentle, but you can't vent in front of her, or I'll pay the price." That they arrived at the square and saw the Canaan College admissions team finalizing their preparations, Wolin breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the three of them. "There you are. I thought you weren't going to show up." "Sorry, Tutor Wolin, we've been at the back of the Xiao family. Canaan College is a prestigious institution. We wouldn't miss it." Wolin's face relaxed. She now realized how much Xiao Zhe valued peace and quiet. She hoped he wouldn't skip class at the academy. Wolin asked them to help with the final tasks. As Xiao Zhe went to lend a hand, a dark-skinned man in a college uniform approached him, calling out, "Xiao Zhe." Xiao Zhe was surprised. "Do I know this senior?" That he studied the man, wondering if he was a student recruited from the Taggart Desert. Hearing this, the dark-skinned man visibly bristled with anger. 7 days. 7 days. Do you know what I've been through? 7 days. Combined with the somewhat familiar voice, Xiao Zhe recognized him. "Isn't that Senior Rhodes?" Xiao Zhe looked him up and down, noting his dark skin. Rhodes looked completely different from 7 days ago. No wonder he hadn't recognized him. Xiao Zhe nodded. "I see. You've been exposed to the sun for 7 days straight, right?" Rhodes clenched his fists. "You know what my life has been like. So what if I do? Are you looking for a rematch?" Xiao Zhe asked indifferently. He recalled Rhodes' behavior during their sparring session, how he seemed unable to handle losing, and even resorted to self-harm. He felt he'd been too lenient before. Hearing Xiao Zhe's cold words, Rhodes raised his fist. "Hey! Senior Rhodes, consider the consequences of your actions. If you're seriously injured again, you won't recover quickly enough for the journey." Rhodes froze, swallowing hard. Xiao Zhe's words seemed to reawaken his injury. He felt a burning pain in his chest again. It had healed long ago, so why did it still hurt? "Senior Rhodes, as I said before, know your limits." Dejected, Rhodes sighed, turned, and walked away. Chapter 43. Traveling through the Black Corner territory. Kill the chicken to scare the monkey. You are listening at novelfold.audio. Ah! Xiao Zhe stretched, finally reaching the small town on the edge of the Black Corner territory. Several admissions teams were already waiting. A large number of prospective Canaan College students from various countries were staying in the town. Canaan College controls this town. It's used as a reception point for the admissions teams, Instructor Wolin explained. The Black Corner territory is a chaotic, dangerous place. You have to be careful, or you'll run into all sorts of trouble. Once all the admissions teams are back, the college will send some of their strongest members to escort us to Canaan College. We have some time now, so feel free to look around. Teams from all over are gathered here. You might find something interesting. But remember, no fighting is allowed in this town. Instructor Wolin looked serious, then waved, dismissing the students. Xiao Zhe, Xiao Xun'er, Little Medical Fairy, and the others stayed with Instructor Wolin. "Instructor Wolin, how long will it take to get through the Black Corner territory and reach Canaan College?" Xiao Zhe asked. "What? Are you already itching to see Canaan College?" Wolin said with a smile. Then, she paused, considering. "Typically, we're a bit late, so the rest of the admissions teams should arrive within a couple of days. Even with an escort of strong members from the academy, crossing the Black Corner territory isn't a walk in the park. Natural disasters aren't so bad, but running into hundreds, or even thousands, of bandits would be a serious problem. I'd say it'll take about 10 days, give or take." Xiao Zhe nodded. It would be difficult to cultivate while traveling, mainly because he didn't want to cause any trouble. Once he got to Canaan Academy, he could focus on his training. He remembered Canaan College having a vast back mountain, where the inner courtyard was hidden. Time flew by. Early one morning, after a head count, an old man sprouted wings from his back, and took flight. The admissions teams have arrived. You have half an hour to pack. We leave in half an hour, and we won't wait for anyone. His voice, amplified by his inner energy, echoed across the town. Xiao Zhe shot out of bed. He'd been sleeping in his clothes for the past couple of days, figuring it was better to be safe than sorry. On the other two beds, the little medical fairy and Xiao Xun'er woke up as well. We're finally going through the Black Corner territory. I can't wait to get to Canaan Academy and start training, the two women said, smiling as they followed Xiao Zhe out. Outside, it was bustling with people packing their bags. Xiao Zhe and the two women had their storage rings, so they were all set and simply waited with Instructor Wolin. The time passed quickly. Half an hour later, the old man's voice boomed again. Time's up. Let's go. The large group started off towards the dangerous land. Canaan College's annual admission ceremony always attracted unwanted attention. A group this big was sure to attract those looking to make trouble, especially the notorious gangsters of the Black Corner territory. Every year, countless desperados rushed to the Black Corner territory to become bandits. It was a revolving door. And no one seemed to learn from the mistakes of others. On the fifth day of the journey, a strong surge of energy came from the back of the group. It was one of the college's strongmen taking action. He had to be at least a Dou Wang. Soon after, the old man held dozens of heads in the air and hung them on the team's flagpoles to scare off any onlookers. The entire team's flagpoles were soon covered in heads. They were the heads of gangsters who had tried to attack the group in the past few days, hoping to make a quick profit. As they went deeper into the Black Corner territory, the number of heads on the flagpole increased, and the warning became more serious. Before making any moves, many gangsters would consider whether they wanted their heads displayed on a flagpole. The new students, who had been in good spirits before, were now pale, staring at the gruesome heads above, but the instructor said nothing. Canaan Academy wasn't about raising delicate flowers, but strong fighters. If they couldn't handle the bloodshed, they should give up their dreams of becoming cultivators. Xiao Zhe leaned on the flagpole, breathing in the faint smell of blood, his face calm. He was even thinking about new abilities. Ever since obtaining the Ernan poison body, he had been trying to combine its poison with the water energy. He had made some progress, but needed further development to fully control the combination. In particular, combining the perfect disaster poison body with the water energy might create new properties, poison water or poisonous water properties. Xiao Zhe stopped trying to name it for now. It wasn't complete yet. He could think about it later. Besides, he was probably the only one with this unique ability, so a name wasn't really necessary. In the following days, they were bothered much less. After all, the heads on the flagpole had once been living people. That was the price you paid for messing with Canaan Academy. Xiao Zhe stood up, spotting two large mountains ahead, and nestled between the mountains was a small town. Xiao Zhe looked at the town as it came into view, along with a sign bearing its name, Peaceful Town. This is Peace Town, and there's the necromancer tree. Xiao Zhe looked at the tree, a silent witness to the struggle between Canaan College and the Black Corner domain. The effort to maintain peace in this chaotic and bloody place was immense. The corpses of a Dou Huang and two Dou Wang hanging on the tree were proof enough. Phew, we're finally close to the edge of Canaan College. Next, we just need to cross a forest to officially reach Canaan City. Teacher Wolin said to Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe nodded, his eyes filled with anticipation. Nothing else happened, and they safely passed through the forest. A large city appeared before the new students, Canaan City. Canaan College was right in the heart of town. Once they entered Canaan City, Xiao Zhe could tell that Instructor Wolin had visibly relaxed. Instructor Wolin, are you relieved now? Xiao Zhe asked, smiling. Wolin rolled her eyes and said, annoyed, the busy part's just beginning. We have to take care of the new students. Wolin made a face and grabbed Xiao Zhe's hand. Don't play any tricks and disappear on me. I'll try my best. Don't try your best, at least wait until I get the new students settled. Wolin's eyes widened, glaring at Xiao Zhe. Her usual gentleness was gone. Okay. Chapter 44, Opportunity to Enter the Library. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the end, Xiao Zhe kept his promise and worked with instructor Wolin to get the new student admissions wrapped up. With 3 days left before the training course officially kicked off, the new students had some time to get used to the academy. Early the next morning, instructor Wolin led Xiao Zhe to a bookstore. This is it. Be on your best behavior in there. The dean's away, so the vice dean calls the shots on pretty much everything in the outer academy. Wolin said seriously, whether you get top-tier training depends on whether you can impress the vice dean. Got it, instructor Wolin. Xiao Zhe nodded and headed toward the bookstore alone. Before he could even knock, the door swung open on its own. A raspy old voice called out from inside, Xiao Zhe, right? Come on in. Xiao Zhe glanced back at instructor Wolin. She smiled, nodded, and gave him a thumbs up. As the door closed behind him, Wolin turned and left to handle new student stuff. Xiao Zhe stepped inside. The book pavilion wasn't dark like he'd imagined. Instead, it was brightly lit, books lined every wall, but instead of lamps, giant luminous pearls served as the light source. Following the voice's directions, Xiao Zhe found himself in a spacious, sunlit room. An old man with a snow-white beard was sitting at a table, poring over a document. Student Xiao Zhe, reporting to the vice dean. Xiao Zhe approached to greet him, but the vice dean didn't react. Xiao Zhe kept his cool and held his position. After about 10 minutes of flipping through the papers, the vice dean finally closed the document. He looked up at Xiao Zhe, still standing at attention, a hint of approval in his eyes, calm and respectful. Nothing like what his file suggested for a 12-year-old kid. All right, son, you can drop the salute. I'm Hu Qian, vice president of Canaan College. The old man's voice was warm and jovial. Xiao Zhe straightened up and looked at the vice dean. Do you know the uproar your file caused when it landed here? We old-timers have been arguing non-stop about how to train you. The vice dean held up the document, the same one he'd been reading. Every senior official in the outer academy had seen this file. They'd had a massive debate, all to figure out Xiao Zhe's training. It had been more than a decade since the dean left Canaan College, and the guardians wouldn't step in unless the academy faced a life-or-death situation. That meant the academy needed to start churning out top-tier experts again to keep everyone else in line. And Xiao Zhe was a solid investment. His training plan hadn't been finalized until just yesterday. That's why the vice dean had set up this meeting so quickly. Old habits die hard, so he'd thrown in a little test. The past 10 minutes had been a test of Xiao Zhe's character, and he seemed to have passed with flying colors. I await the vice dean's instructions. Xiao Zhe replied, sounding neither arrogant nor subservient. Here's a training plan for you, but it's not a freebie, of course. In the future, when you're a top expert and the academy's in trouble, you'll need to step up. Also, you'll have to stay here for 3 years. That the vice dean handed over a stack of papers. Xiao Zhe took it with both hands and scanned it. 1 chance to enter the library, 100 elixir points every month, one-on-one coaching from a senior instructor. Xiao Zhe's eyes went wide at the sheer generosity of the plan. Just the library access alone was worth a fortune. Only the top 5 in each inner court selection got to go in there. Out of all the talented students in the outer academy, someone had to be the best to get that chance, and Xiao Zhe could just waltz right in. The elixir points could be exchanged for elixirs in the alchemy system, or he could spend those points and have an alchemist whip up whatever he needed. The one-on-one coaching from senior instructors was a huge deal, too, and there were all sorts of other perks listed. All Xiao Zhe had to do was get strong and help the college when it was in danger, and stick around for 3 years. For Xiao Zhe, it was a no-brainer. But there were still benefits he didn't need. After a moment of thought, Xiao Zhe saluted respectfully and said, Vice Dean, I'm happy to accept, but I'd like to suggest some changes to the plan. Oh. You haven't even had a taste of this stuff, and you want to switch things up. This is what us old-timers cooked up. That's not what I meant. It's just that some of it doesn't really fit my personality or situation. Alright, tell me about it. The vice dean sighed. They'd spent ages debating the plan, and now he wanted to rework it. I'd like more chances to get into the library. I'm willing to give up other perks to make it happen. Huh, you're a smart kid. You know the library access is the real prize here. That the vice president couldn't help but laugh. Xiao Zhe's shrewdness only made him like him more. To get ahead, you had to know how to look out for yourself. I'm good with your proposal, but that means cutting way back on the other stuff, maybe even getting rid of it altogether. I mean, in the library, if you get enough chances, you could even pick up Earth-level skills and combat techniques. That's top-tier stuff you can't find anywhere else. Understood. Xiao Zhe replied with a bow. He'd only brought it up because he recognized the library's true value. Okay, since you're set on this, I'll talk to those old coots again and see if we can squeeze out a few more benefits for you. The vice dean stroked his beard, already impressed with Xiao Zhe's qualities. He even thought about setting him up with his rambunctious granddaughter, but he didn't want to meddle too much in young people's affairs, preferring to let things play out naturally. His job was to protect their future so they could thrive. Thank you, Vice President. You can head back now. I'll have someone let you know by this time tomorrow at the earliest when to come and pick up your 2 opportunities. Xiao Zhe bowed and left. As he watched him go, the vice dean glanced down at the training plan. Guess I'm off to argue with those old codgers again. After leaving the book pavilion, Xiao Zhe returned to the small attic instructor Wulin had set up for the 3 of them. His insistence on getting another crack at the library wasn't just about finding better techniques for himself, he also wanted to find a high-level poison skill for little fairy doctor. The technique she was using now was one Xiao Xun'er had given her. Without it, she'd still be stuck at dojo. Unable to improve, Xiao Zhe didn't really need anything else other than skills. Xiao Xun'er was taking care of the fighting techniques, at least for now. Xiao Zhe was good on that front. Xiao Zhe told the others about the meeting, and they were both impressed and a little jealous. Chapter 45, Return as Desired, Earth-Level Cultivation Technique. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The next day, Xiao Zhe followed the vice dean's people to the library. After they left, the vice dean smiled at Xiao Zhe. Your request was approved. You get 2 visits to the library, but other training perks will be reduced or even cancelled. Xiao Zhe calmly nodded and took the information the vice dean offered. It was better than he expected. At least the allocation for the second most valuable elixir hadn't been cut. Heading to the library now? The vice dean asked. Yes, I need advanced skills. The vice dean nodded, stood up, and walked to the wall behind him, pressing a few seemingly random spots. With a low rumble, a dark opening appeared. Come with me. The vice dean glanced at Xiao Zhe, who looked unfazed, and felt even more pleased. Keeping calm in the face of change was a rare quality. They walked through the passage, lit by large, luminous pearls embedded in the walls. The vice dean explained the library rules and what to watch out for. Light grew ahead, and Xiao Zhe quickened his pace. The sudden brightness made him squint. He found himself in a secluded valley, the towering mountains seeming impossibly high. Nestled among the cliffs was a massive, ancient pavilion radiating an aura of age. A weathered plaque above the entrance displayed 3 powerful characters, Library Pavilion. The vice dean led Xiao Zhe to the entrance and saluted the air with clasped fists. A student from Canaan College's outer campus training program has arrived. Please open the door. His voice, amplified by his inner power, echoed through the valley. Xiao Zhe noticed 2 old men in gray robes now sitting near the entrance. They hadn't been there before, seemingly appearing out of thin air. He lowered his gaze and stood still. After about 10 minutes, the old men's eyelids flickered, revealing cloudy eyes. They scrutinized Xiao Zhe, a clear sense of surprise dawning on their faces. One of them asked, Young friend, how old are you? Student Xiao Zhe, greetings. I am 12 years old, Xiao Zhe replied with a bow. The old men exchanged surprised glances. No wonder they were activating a long-dormant training program. A 12-year-old 4-star great fighter was an exceptionally talented warrior. After all, with some time to adapt, Xiao Zhe had immediately broken through upon arriving at Canaan College and had become a 4-star great fighter. Gifted. One of the men exclaimed. A force to be reckoned with. Added the other, both amazed by Xiao Zhe's talent. Even veterans like them had never seen anyone so gifted. The old men extended their withered hands, displaying strange markings. With these gestures, a strange, powerful wave spread, contacting the space in front of Xiao Zhe. Space rippled like water, the Vice Dean explained. That's a spatial lock set by a powerful Dou zone, providing incredible protection. Not even a Dou zone could break through it. Xiao Zhe bowed slightly. Thank you for the explanation, Vice Dean. A spatial doorway slowly formed before them. The Vice Dean stepped through first, followed closely by Xiao Zhe. Thank you, elders. Hu Qian called out. Just doing our duty, one of the old men rasped. Before falling silent again, Hu Qian turned to Xiao Zhe. You have 1 hour this time and can only take one item. I've already warned you about the dangers. Don't push yourself, or you'll come out empty-handed. Xiao Zhe nodded, then paused. Could I combine the two opportunities? I wouldn't want to trouble the elders repeatedly. Hu Qian hesitated, he couldn't make that decision here. Yes, we can extend the time to 2 hours, and he can take 2 items, one of the old men said. Xiao Zhe bowed his thanks and stepped forward, avoiding looking at the plaque above. It held a magical power that could captivate the mind. He focused on his purpose, a sense of desolation in his heart. However, it didn't affect him. Only after Xiao Zhe entered the library did the 3 left outside exchange glances. They had planned to warn him when he seemed to fall into a trance, but he seemed completely immune. This only raised their opinion of him further. Second elders, how long do you think it will take for him to come out, and what do you think he'll get? Hu Qian asked. Bored, the old men exchanged glances. If it were the top 5 students from the inner courtyard, they wouldn't have bothered talking to Hu Qian. But Xiao Zhe was the first genius to receive a training program in years. And at such a young age, his strength was already at the 4-star great fighter level. Combined with his previous impressive performances, they were genuinely curious. Xiao Zhe is certainly gifted, but chance and character are also crucial in the library. His success depends entirely on him, one of the old men said slowly. Just as Hu Qian was about to reply, he suddenly turned towards the library, a hint of surprise on his face. The 2 old men looked equally surprised. Was Xiao Zhe already coming out? He'd only been inside for less than 10 minutes. The Vice Dean frowned slightly and looked towards the door of the library. Sure enough, Xiao Zhe walked out with a calm expression. Xiao Zhe, why are you out so soon? You know how precious this opportunity is. Why? Hu Qian said anxiously. If something happened, your request would be invalidated. I'll give you another chance, but this time you can only bring one thing. That's all right, Vice Dean, Xiao Zhe said, smiling and shaking his head, revealing 2 scrolls in his hands. One shimmered with an aqua blue color like the ocean, the other shone with a colorful, strange brilliance. I'm very satisfied with this haul, so I didn't want to trouble the elders any longer. Earth-level skills. Both of them, the old men, with their sharp eyes, saw the level of the scrolls and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Hu Qian also realized what was happening, and looked at the 2 scrolls in Xiao Zhe's hands. It seemed he had indeed come away with a full load. You got 2 Earth-level scrolls that quickly? Hu Qian marveled. As soon as I entered, several beams of light flew out from the energy shield and stopped next to me, Xiao Zhe explained. After checking, they turned out to be Earth-level techniques, and they were exactly what I needed, so I didn't waste time picking and choosing. His explanation left the 3 others speechless. If the top 5 students from previous inner court selections heard this, they'd probably burst into tears. Chapter 46 Sparring Guidance. Class Evaluation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In front of the library, 2 gray-robed elders watched Xiao Zhe walk away. That kid's got incredible talent and a golden opportunity. If he doesn't get cut down, he's destined to become a top dog in the Doqi continent. Canaan College's betting on him? That's gonna pay off big time. The air shimmered, cloaking the library in a secluded pocket dimension, silencing the conversation. Meanwhile, the deputy dean glanced at the two Earth-level skills in Xiao Zhe's hands, impressed. He'd never seen anything like it. If Xiao Zhe was telling the truth, the energy shield practically barfed up Earth-level techniques the moment he stepped inside. Earth-level skills that would spark wars outside were just laid out for Xiao Zhe to pick and choose. If that isn't a gift from the heavens, what is? Well, these two Earth-level skills are worth way more than your original training plan. Kid, you've hit the jackpot. Hu Qian chuckled, stroking his beard. Thanks to you, Deputy Dean, for this opportunity. Xiao Zhe tucked the scrolls into his ring and bowed respectfully. Alright, I can see you're itching to start practicing, so I won't keep you. Hu Qian, noticing Xiao Zhe's eagerness, waved him off. Later, students, Xiao Zhe bowed before leaving the library, wanting to make a good impression. Back at his small attic, Xiao Zhe gathered little fairy doctor and Xiao Xun'er, and the three of them headed straight to the back mountain, burning the midnight oil to practice their skills. A day later, a message arrived via Wolin's messenger bird. Formal academy training was about to begin. The training course broke down into roughly 3 parts theory and 7 parts practice, and if you got stuck, you could always ask a teacher. After a day of theoretical classes, Xiao Zhe figured things out. The courses were useful, but not by much, especially the practical courses. They were all about turning book smarts into usable skills, but for Xiao Zhe at this point, it was pretty useless. For the practical course, Wolin paired everyone up to spar. Xiao Xun'er teamed up with little fairy doctor, while Xiao Zhe was stuck with a girl with long red hair. Classmate Xiao Zhe, any tips would be great. Hey, same here. After a polite exchange, the red-haired girl made the first move. Xiao Zhe tilted his head, swatting away her outstretched hand. Not enough power. Try channeling your energy into your palms. Xiao Zhe showed her how, infusing his hand with energy. The girl looked surprised, then smiled and copied him. Find the right spot to hit. Even in a friendly match, you gotta be quick, precise, and ruthless to hit the vital points. Xiao Zhe chopped at her wrist, which turned red instantly, but the girl didn't cry out or complain. She just pursed her lips and aimed for his pressure points, just like he said. 10 minutes later, the girl had improved by leaps and bounds. Other students gathered around, mouths agape, totally shocked. Wolin, watching from the stage, just shook her head, smiling helplessly, being this kid's mentor. Talk about pressure. After 15 minutes, Xiao Zhe called it quits. The long-haired girl was panting, face flushed. Take a break. Too much at once won't help. Then, a female classmate spoke up. Xiao Zhe, can you spar with me? I can take the pain. Just coach me. She could see how much he'd improved the other girl's fighting skills. It was probably better than Wolin's one-on-one teaching. After that, everyone started asking to spar with him. Xiao Zhe, please spar with me. I'm tough as nails. Don't hold back, just guide me all you want. Xiao Zhe, if you coach me, I can give you some perks. The comments were getting weirder and weirder, until an elegant figure appeared next to Xiao Zhe. The lively scene went silent. Xiao Xun'er smiled sweetly. I know you're all eager to get stronger, but there's only one Xiao Zhe. Trying to teach so many people at once would be too much, so please follow the instructor's lead. The commotion died down. After all, everyone knew Xiao Xun'er was the strongest freshman, Super S-level potential. Wolin had already told the vice dean about Xiao Zhe's situation, so the other students didn't know his true strength, but Xiao Xun'er's Super S-level potential was common knowledge. That's why Xiao Xun'er carried so much weight in the class. The students wore disappointed expressions, and Wolin stepped in. Here's what we'll do, Xiao Zhe will rotate and give everyone guidance. Any objections, Xiao Zhe? Xiao Zhe shook his head. He had to be in class anyway, plus, coaching others could help him improve, too. Oh, and there's a class competition in 10 days. The strongest student from each class will compete for the class. The winning class gets extra resources for the next year. The Xian class usually wins, but this year, I want the Huang class to take it all. Wolin looked pointedly at Xiao Zhe and Xiao Xun'er. The other students understood as well. they felt lucky to be in the same class as Xiao Zhe and Xiao Xun'er. Xun'er, any thoughts? Xiao Zhe turned to Xiao Xun'er. She was the strongest fighter in their class, besides him. Whatever brother Xiao Zhe thinks. Ruolin rolled her eyes. The two of them were being way too humble, so she brought out the big guns. The winner of this competition will get a 5th grade elixir from the college, which supposedly improves potential. Teacher Ruolin, I volunteer to represent our class. I'm just happy to bring honor to the class. Xiao Zhe raised his hand. That 5th grade elixir was extremely valuable. If Xiao Xun'er used it, the feedback to himself would be insane. Xiao Xun'er taking action was a bit unsafe. If he did it himself, he could definitely get that pill. It felt kinda cruel for a 4-star great fighter to be fighting these fighter-level freshmen. The other students cheered. Xiao Zhe's earlier sparring lessons showed a scary amount of strength. If he fought, they were guaranteed to win. Then they could enjoy the extra resources. Everyone looked at Xiao Zhe with gratitude and admiration. They just thought he was joking when he said what he did earlier. Ruolin glared at Xiao Zhe. Alright, break time's over. Let's get back to sparring. The red-haired girl cherished this opportunity, because next time, she wouldn't be sparring with Xiao Zhe. Chapter 47 The vast sea is empty. Water-poison combination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Canaan College sat beneath a looming mountain. Xiao Zhe was cross-legged, breathing deeply as a massive transformation unfolded within him. He'd successfully upgraded his skill to an earth-level, low-grade technique, the Hanhai Pingshu Ju. He chose this technique specifically for its ability to generate a fighting energy capacity as vast as the ocean. It also granted him the intangible fighting spirit characteristic of existing in a void. Focusing his will, he merged the poisonous power of disaster within him with his fighting spirit. With a gentle wave of his hand, a wisp of fighting spirit, like a hazy cloud, drifted toward a stone about 30 feet away. Instantly, the stone crumbled into dust. Success! I can completely integrate my fighting spirit and poisonous power. Plus, it's formless and invisible to the naked eye, giving me a huge advantage in a fight. Perfect timing with the class competition coming up. Let's give these freshmen a taste. Xiao Zhe rose and headed for the competition grounds. The class evaluation was the biggest event of the year for freshmen. Everyone paid attention, even some older students came to watch. After all, those representing their class were the strongest of the strong, which meant they were likely to be serious contenders for the inner court selections down the line. So, yeah, it got a lot of buzz. Xiao Zhe arrived at his class's designated area. Ruolin visibly relaxed when she saw him. Xiao Zhe might disappear sometimes, but he always came through when it mattered. We're up first today. Your opponent is Bai Li from Xuanjia Class 3. After Ruolin gave Xiao Zhe the rundown on Bai Li, the referee's voice boomed out. Bai Li, Xuanjia Class 3, versus Xiao Zhe, Huanjia Class 2. Xiao Zhe stepped into the ring and sized up his opponent, a 4-star fighter. Gotta hold back a little here to avoid accidentally killing him. Humph. You're that mysterious hotshot everyone's talking about, Xiao Zhe. Bai Li strolled onto the stage, twirling a silver spear. Dressed in white, he cut a pretty stylish figure. Unless there's another Xiao Zhe running around, that'd be me. Then let's see what all the hype is about. As soon as the referee yelled, begin. Bai Li charged, spear first. The spear point flashed with cold light, thrusting like a dragon unleashed. Gotta give it to him, he clearly put in the work practicing his spear technique. Bright yellow light crackled at the tip. When Bai Li saw Xiao Zhe just standing there, a prickle of unease shot through him. Suddenly, a sharp kick to the foot sent his heart racing, his vision blurred, he even started seeing double. One Xiao Zhe multiplied into 3. The spear, previously rock-steady in his grip, wavered. Xiao Zhe casually snatched the spear, and with a slight squeeze, crushed the silver shaft. Total annihilation. Thud. Everyone stared at Bai Li sprawled on the ground outside the ring, a wave of confusion washing over them. Was this a fix? Was it even trying to look legit? Halfway through his charge, he suddenly looked like he'd been drugged, his steps clumsy, his moves erratic. The middle-aged referee was just as stunned. He snapped out of it when Xiao Zhe looked his way and quickly announced. The winner is Hujia Class 2, Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe casually tossed the broken spear, embedding it in the ground right next to Bai Li. Experimenting with the water poison fighting energy was paying off big time, but since it was just a college competition, Xiao Zhe held back, just amped up the stun effect a bit. With the perfect disaster poison body, he could control the poison with pinpoint accuracy, achieving any effect he wanted in a heartbeat. The audience had expected a clash of titans, but instead, they got a comedy show. Bai Li's classmates couldn't resist cracking jokes at his expense. "Mr. My class is the strongest" turns into a spineless jellyfish the second someone throws a punch. Seriously, that was so fake. You were stumbling like you'd been partying all night. You fell out of the ring before anyone even touched you. You totally embarrassed us. The taunt stung Bai Li's ears, and he leaped to his feet, brandishing his spear at his classmates. Anyone else want to run their mouth? Let's see if your talk is tougher than my spear. Seeing Bai Li's outburst, the class instructor frowned and snapped. What are you doing? You lost the match, so you turn your spear on your own classmates. Losing isn't the end of the world, but being a sore loser is. With that, the instructor turned and walked away, clearly disappointed. He'd pegged Bai Li as his most promising student, but now he wasn't so sure. Some of the older faculty, more invested in the freshman evaluations, had also stopped by to watch. They never expected the first match to be about the kid they'd been arguing about. Normal instructors might not have noticed, but these old-timers had sharp eyes. They knew this wasn't a fixed fight, but a genuine mismatch. The gap in power was so huge that even the instructor couldn't see what Xiao Zhe had done. One of the old men, his face etched with wrinkles, stroked his beard and managed a grim smile. A unique fighting spirit attribute, undetectable to the naked eye, intangible, and with a disorienting effect. Looks like this class competition won't force him to show his true strength. I was hoping to get a glimpse of his real combat prowess, but I guess I'll have to wait for that one event. The old man mumbled to himself, then turned and left. Anyone familiar with the college would recognize that he was heading for the law enforcement team headquarters. Back at the class's gathering spot, Xiao Zhe was greeted by the admiring gazes of his classmates. Xiao Zhe, you're a beast. One-hit knockout. That guy from Xuanjia Class 3 was so cocky at first, then he just melted when he hit the ground. Xiao Zhe smiled at the praise and headed over to Instructor Wolin. Wolin suddenly asked, "Is that your new fighting skill?" "Not really a fighting skill, more like a new take on my abilities." Xiao Zhe paused, searching for the right words. This wasn't a fighting skill at all, it was more like something exclusive to him. After all, no one else in Dochi continent had a perfect disaster poison body. Trying new things, you really keep surprising me. True enough. A competition like this probably isn't worth your full strength. Wolin sighed. She knew that the following games would probably be more of the same. Eventually, everyone would realize that it wasn't that Xiao Zhe's opponents were weak, but that Xiao Zhe was just different. Sure enough, the next match was even more jaw-dropping. Xiao Zhe's opponents suffered the same fate as the first. They'd start off strong, then falter mid-stride, and finally get taken down by a single blow from Xiao Zhe, all the way to the finals. No one could force Xiao Zhe to make a second move. Over time, the audience grew numb. Anytime Xiao Zhe was fighting, it was pretty much a given that he'd win. In no time, Xiao Zhe's reputation among the freshmen exploded. He even overshadowed the Super S-level Xiao Xun'er. Some people even called Xiao Zhe the strongest new student, period. Xiao Zhe didn't really care. He was impossible to find after the matches, anyway. Chapter 48 is hot. Body shaping elixir. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On stage, Xiao Zhe flicked his long sword, the sound ringing like clashing metal. His opponent's eyes blurred, and in a flash, her sword was gone, now in Xiao Zhe's hands. Thwack, star. Xiao Zhe, holding the sword behind him, struck her in the gut with the hilt, forcing her to double over. When she looked up, Xiao Zhe's sword was already at her neck. I win, Xiao Zhe said. The girl sighed, resigned. She'd expected this, but still felt a pang of disappointment. They'd made it all the way to the finals. Just one more step and she could have claimed the 5th grade elixir. But against Xiao Zhe, it was like hitting a brick wall. She couldn't last a round before his sword was at her throat. I lost, Xiao Zhe. The referee confirmed it. Xiao Zhe of Huangjia Class 2 wins. The vice president stood up and announced to the crowd, the winner of this class competition is Xiao Zhe. And Huangjia Class 2, thanks to Xiao Zhe's victory, will receive extra resource support from the college next year. The cheers erupted. Xiao Zhe's classmates went wild, chanting his name. Xiao Zhe struggled to keep from grinning like a fool. He offered the sword back, hilt first. Thanks for the match. I'll get it back, though. She said, smiling confidently as she took the sword. Sure, hope so, Xiao Zhe replied dryly. If she managed to beat him, he might as well just give up. Xiao Zhe, please come up to receive your prize. Hearing that, Xiao Zhe's eyes lit up. He leaped off the stage and headed for the high platform. The 5th grade elixir he'd been dreaming of was finally within reach. Hu Qian smiled at Xiao Zhe. He had lived up to the training plan. Still, he needed time to develop. Someday, Xiao Zhe would make his mark. Here you go. A rare masterpiece by Elder Hua from the alchemy department. I had to practically pry it out of his hands. He nearly took a swing at me. Hu Qian chuckled, then solemnly presented the jade bottle to Xiao Zhe. Xiao Zhe could feel the potent energy radiating from within. Thank you, Vice President. You earned it. He did as instructed and raised the jade bottle high, declaring himself the champion. Back in class, Xiao Zhe vanished. He couldn't shake off the Vice President's final request. Behind Canaan College, in their usual training spot, Xiao Xun'er and Little Medical Fairy were waiting. The Vice President's instructions were so corny, Xiao Xun'er giggled, covering her mouth. But you looked so handsome doing it. Announcing yourself as the winner under the spotlight. Little Medical Fairy said matter-of-factly. Every guy probably wanted to be you. It's definitely a major way to get a girl's attention. Xiao Zhe rubbed his arms, still cringing. Anyway, Xun'er, this body-shaping elixir is for you. It'll work better for someone with your fire attribute. The body-shaping pill was his grand prize. It would have some effect on him, but it would have a 10x multiplier effect for Xiao Xun'er. But, this kind of elixir improves potential and isn't that dependent on attributes. If you took it, it might work better and raise your talent even higher, Xiao Xun'er said, pushing the bottle back to him. Don't be silly. I gave Little Medical Fairy an Earth-level scroll. I can give you a 5th grade elixir. Xiao Zhe took her hand and pressed the bottle into her palm. Besides, I've transformed my technique, and I'm leveling up fast. I don't want to go to the inner courtyard alone. Xiao Xun'er stopped arguing. She didn't want to be separated from him. Little Medical Fairy nodded, serious. Xiao Zhe was right. He was leaving them in the dust. Xiao Xun'er opened the bottle. A potent fragrance filled the air, accompanied by faint waves of energy. Heat radiated from the opening, raising the temperature around them. That smells amazing. She murmured, then made a decision. I'll wait until I advance to 9-star fighter before taking it. This elixir is powerful. Even after improving my potential, there will be a ton of medicinal energy left. I can use that to attack the Dou Master level and get a huge boost. Xiao Zhe nodded. Xiao Xun'er was close to 9-star fighter. Maybe she could use the elixir to jump straight to Dou Master. They threw themselves into training. Xiao Zhe decided to save Xiao Xun'er's rewards for himself to use when he reached the breakthrough. The little Dr. Fairy's rewards however were nothing spectacular. What followed were doubled or tripled feedback rewards, which can only be said to be better than nothing. After the class evaluation, Xiao Zhe became popular. Everyone wanted to recruit the rising star who dominated the competition, but after that, he vanished. He didn't even go to the academy's training courses. He attended practical courses occasionally. He'd already aced the theoretical stuff. Wolin had to find more people to train with Xiao Zhe in the practical class. The other students didn't complain. The students who trained with Xiao Zhe were able to benefit from it completely. Those who only got the opportunity could only drink the leftover soup. They knew Xiao Zhe would soon surpass them and go to the inner courtyard. All they could do was get his help while they still could. Time passed. Soon, Xiao Xun'er reached a critical point, 9-star fighter. Chapter 49 Qualifications greatly improved. Hujia. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Back Mountain, a slightly desolate mountaintop, they chose this sunny spot specifically for Xiao Xun'er's breakthrough, since the fire element was more active here. Xiao Zhe and the little medical fairy stood by, offering encouraging looks. Xiao Xun'er uncorked a jade bottle and poured out a fiery red pill. The potent aroma of the elixir filled the air, even forming shimmering rings of light red energy around the pill, showcasing the high quality of this 5th-grade medicine. Xiao Xun'er glanced at Xiao Zhe, and, seeing his smile, opened her mouth slightly and swallowed the fiery red pill. Immediately, she closed her eyes, focusing on refining it. The medicinal power of a 5th-grade elixir is extraordinary. Even pills primarily designed to improve one's inherent talents can significantly boost cultivation. Furthermore, they refine the physique during advancement. The combined effect promises to be even more powerful. Xiao Xun'er felt like she'd swallowed a ball of fire. The violent power of the medicine threatened to overwhelm her, but before it could fully erupt, an even more terrifying force surged from within her. This force effortlessly subdued the medicine's raw power with its scorching heat. Xiao Xun'er's skin glowed faintly red as the 5th-grade elixir worked on her physique. Simultaneously, Xiao Zhe keenly sensed shifts in the surrounding energy. It began to rush toward Xiao Xun'er. Looks like she's about to break through. The red light gradually faded, replaced by an intensely radiant golden glow. Golden light emanated from Xiao Xun'er's fair skin, as if drawn by a magnet. The energy of heaven and earth began to swirl around her, forming a visible vortex. Xun'er should be able to pull this off, the little medical fairy said, but a hint of worry crept into her voice. Cultivation was never a sure thing. Failure could mean losing a level. Relax. With Xun'er's talent and the remaining medicinal strength, breaking through to Dou Master will be a piece of cake, Xiao Zhe replied, confident in Xiao Xun'er's abilities. All they had to do was wait, and he was right. As time passed, Xiao Xun'er's aura intensified. The golden light emanating from her became more and more dazzling. Pang, star. As a faint golden wave rippled from Xiao Xun'er's body, a system notification appeared before Xiao Zhe's eyes. Ding. Xiao Xun'er has ingested the 5th-grade body-shaping pill, resulting in a slight improvement to her innate talents, and achieving a breakthrough to Dou Master. Congratulations to the host for receiving 10 times the feedback. Congratulations on a substantial improvement to host's innate talents. Xiao Zhe beamed. This was the pill being used to its full potential. If he consumed it, the benefits would be minimal, but by giving it to Xiao Xun'er, she not only improved, but he received a huge boost as well. Xiao Zhe decided to hold off on claiming his reward for now. He'd just broken through to 6-star Dou Master a couple of days ago. He'd wait a bit longer to let things accumulate. If he collected all the saved-up rewards at once, he might jump straight to 7-star fighter. That would put him at a pretty good level for a great Dou Master. Brother Xiao Zhe, little medical fairy, I did it. I broke through to Dou Master. Xiao Xun'er opened her eyes, looking at them happily. Finally, she'd reached Dou Master, and hopefully wouldn't fall too far behind Xiao Zhe again. Congratulations, Xun'er. Congrats, Sister Xun'er. Xiao Xun'er shared her insights on the breakthrough and her experience with the 5th-grade elixir. To celebrate Xun'er becoming a Dou Master, why don't we catch a few of those ice spirit rabbits we found the other day? Xiao Zhe's suggestion made their eyes light up, and they swallowed hard, instinctively. I'll go catch the ice spirit rabbits. I'll find some firewood. They quickly divvied up the tasks and disappeared. Xiao Zhe pulled a full set of cooking gear from his ring. Since they practically lived on Back Mountain, they'd learned to fend for themselves. The ice spirit rabbit was a 2nd-level monster, roughly equivalent to a Dou Shi level practitioner. Its inherent ice element made it a tough fight. Most World of Warcraft creatures avoided including it in their diet, because they preferred swallowing prey whole. The ice spirit rabbit's meat contained a high concentration of ice-attributed fighting energy, which was hard to digest and could easily wreak havoc inside. Those monsters kept a respectful distance. Even if they could defeat it, they'd gladly exclude it from their menu. However, when properly prepared to remove the ice-fighting energy, the ice spirit rabbit became a rare delicacy. Ever since their first taste, they'd been hooked. They'd even marked the location of the nest they'd found a few days earlier. Whenever they craved it, they'd just catch a few. Soon, Xiao Xun'er returned, carrying 3 ice spirit rabbits with their necks neatly broken. The little medical fairy came back with a pile of special dry firewood from her own ring. Before long, a mouth-watering aroma drifted from the mountaintop. Unlike the previous herbal scent, this fragrance triggered a primal craving, making you salivate at the mere whiff. After savoring every bite of the ice spirit rabbit, the 3 of them dove back into their training. Cultivation was like swimming upstream. If you didn't push forward, you'd fall behind. The drudgery was unavoidable. The best you could do was find ways to make the process enjoyable. The delightful meal they just shared was Xiao Zhe and the others' chosen pleasure. The next day, Xiao Zhe made a rare appearance at the academy for the training sessions. He was greeted warmly by his classmates. Xiao Zhe was a hot commodity. A sparring match with him was guaranteed to be beneficial. Since the academy competition, Xiao Zhe had purposefully kept a low profile. After all, people liked novelty. If you stayed out of sight for too long, their enthusiasm would fade. So, besides the warm welcome, his return went without incident. Classmate Xiao Zhe, I'd like to request your guidance, a pretty girl with long black hair and a shy demeanor said. Hi. You're the last one in our class I haven't sparred with yet. What about Xiao Xun'er and the little medical fairy? She asked. I spar with them every day, so don't worry about them, Xiao Zhe said with a smile and waved his hand, signaling her to begin. Okay. A hint of envy flickered in the girl's eyes as she assumed a fighting stance. The training session was technically over, and Xiao Zhe just wanted to finish his sparring session with the last student. Other students scattered around, observing and learning. Just then, a flash of red blurred past the doorway. Xiao Zhe caught a glimpse of it, grinned to himself, and ignored it. The red figure walked directly to Xiao Xun'er. What she said left everyone nearby speechless. Talk about making an entrance. Xiao Xun'er, I like you. Will you go out with me? Xiao Xun'er looked at the figure in surprise, mouth agape. The figure was a stunningly beautiful girl. She wore a red dress and held a colorful flower in her mouth. The confession, delivered through a gap in her teeth, left Xiao Xun'er stunned. Chapter 50 Inspire Hujia. Warcraft Hunting Contest. You are listening at novelfold.audio. In the training room, Hujia's words brought everyone to a standstill. Eyes darted between Hujia and Xiao Xun'er. Some girls were already imagining the 2 stunning beauties as a couple. Talk about eye-catching. Suddenly, Xiao Zhe chopped the black-haired girl on the head, making her yelp and grab her skull. Even in sparring, we simulate real combat. Lose focus, and you're dead. Yes, sir. She replied, then hesitated. Don't you want to check on Xun'er? Xun'er can handle it herself. Xiao Zhe frowned at her curiosity and slammed his palm toward her chest. Ah, that she quickly crossed her arms for protection. Thwack, star, she stumbled backward, rubbing her chest. That seemingly harmless palm must have left a dent, right? Tears welled as she looked at Xiao Zhe, shame and anger mixed in her expression. My palm was moving slower than before. If you weren't distracted, you could have dodged it. Xiao Zhe ignored her tears, his tone even. Battles outside the academy aren't quiet and polite. Enemies use every trick in the book. As a girl, you have more to worry about, which makes you a target. You need to be prepared, adaptable, not crying and begging for mercy. The black-haired girl pursed her lips, wiped her eyes, and charged at Xiao Zhe again. While the fight was exciting, the potential romance between the 2 beauties was also drawing attention. Other students were torn. Which drama should they watch? Some chose to watch Xiao Zhe's sparring, likely his last for the class, but more focused on the unfolding drama between the beauties. Would love transcend societal norms? Or would one be brutally rejected? The tension was palpable. After a moment of surprise, Xiao Xun'er regained her composure, a slight smile playing on her lips. I don't think we've met. Who are you? I'm Hujia, also a new student. Hujia continued, still holding the flower. Hujia's grandfather hadn't planned to enroll her this year, but her talent and her grandfather's position as vice president meant she'd attracted the attention of some at Canaan Academy. In certain circles, she was already known as Little Witch. Because her grandfather was the vice president of the outer academy, Hujia could move freely on campus. During a recent class assessment, she'd spotted Xiao Xun'er and was immediately smitten. To get closer, she'd badgered her grandfather into letting her enroll this year. Finally, Hu Qian relented. It wasn't a violation of the rules, as Hujia's strength met the admission standards. While there were annual enrollment dates, people also traveled great distances to send their children to Canaan Academy, and as long as they met the requirements, the academy would accept them. Xiao Xun'er mentally searched for information on Hujia but found nothing. The Little Witch title was only used in a limited setting. Besides, since enrolling, Xiao Xun'er had mostly practiced in the back mountain with Xiao Zhe, rarely interacting with other students. Hujia, regardless of whether I like girls or not, and setting aside how much time we've spent together, I have a question for you. Xiao Xun'er tapped her chin, a smirk on her face. Oblivious, Hujia eagerly replied, ask away. Strength rules in the Dou Qi continent. Would you ever be with someone weaker than you? Xiao Xun'er asked, holding out her palms, blocking prying eyes. A faint wisp of fighting energy materialized. Hujia's eyes widened. Growing up at Canaan Academy, she recognized the sign of a Dou master, fighting qi becoming tangible. Xiao Xun'er, her age, was already a Dou master. Her jaw dropped, and she didn't even notice the flower falling from her teeth. It was Hujia's turn to be stunned, putting herself in the same position. If a boy weaker than her pursued her, she would definitely reject him outright, maybe even beat him up. I understand. I'll catch up. Xun'er, wait for me. Hujia turned and bolted from the training room. Xiao Xun'er picked up the dropped flower and put it in her ring. It was quite rare. She now realized that cultivating brought happiness to a whole new level. With Xiao Zhe, that joy was completely absent. Despite her talent, she couldn't feel that satisfaction. Of course, Xiao Xun'er had other reasons for her actions. Rejecting Hujia based on strength would likely end the pursuit. If she'd said she didn't like girls, Hujia might try to change her mind, which was too much effort, and saying they hadn't spent enough time together. Hujia would probably follow her everywhere. By citing the difference in cultivation, she could stop Hujia's advances and motivate her to train harder. Xiao Xun'er felt she'd played it perfectly. As for Hujia actually catching up, the thought made Xiao Xun'er smile. Meanwhile, Xiao Zhe delivered another palm strike to the black-haired girl's chest. This time, she dodged and countered immediately. Xiao Zhe easily deflected the attack and pushed her away. Alright, that's the end of today's session. The black-haired girl was disappointed, but still expressed her gratitude. Thank you, Xiao Zhe, for your guidance. Xiao Zhe waved his hand dismissively. Xiao Xun'er and the little medical fairy were waiting nearby, and the other students watched as the group left. Xiao Zhe had been focused on the sparring, but he knew how Xiao Xun'er had handled the situation. He found it odd that she'd used that reason to reject Hujia. As they walked, Instructor Wolin hurried up to them. You three, hold on. Since you're all here, I can tell you about the warcraft hunting competition. Wolin stopped, looking at them. I might not be able to find you later. Xiao Zhe paused, confused. Warcraft hunting competition,